Wow.
We're live. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Good.
How you doing?
There was some panic there before we hit the go live button, but I think we're good.
It's because I'm producing.
Ah,
Behind the scenes. You
I
got to make
understand.
sure it's correct.
I'm excited to talk, Stephen. Don't you know that?
I know that. Well, thank you everyone for showing up again. What we're going to talk about is we are going to review yet another article on how to select a DXP. This is from Cylogy. They've partnered up with CMS Wire on their actual market DXP guide. So if you want, I just scroll down right here. You can actually just download the actual PDF to each one.
You need to show our audience.
That's correct. There we go. Hi, there we go. So again, going back, this is from Cylogy. If you're looking for it, just type in Cylogy, how to select a DXP. They'll come up number one. And if you scroll down, they actually have a PDF for you to download, which goes through a lot of the more enterprise and large DXPs and gives a good breakout of what each one of the strengths, the benefits, where they come from.
It's a very robust document.
It is.
It's like 90 pages. It has a lot to say on all the different platforms. It doesn't do all of them. So the only watch out is it may not be the representation that you're looking for, but give it a look for sure.
Excellent. So today what we're going to do is just go through the criteria they set out and just have a little bit of a discussion about what we think on their...
they've got an introduction to sort of how you would go about choosing from the list that they go into a lot of detail about. So
correct.
It's kind of the equivalent of that guidance on how to select a digital experience platform.
Correct. The one thing I'll say, which is different from all the other articles that we've actually looked at, they don't tell you what a DXP is, which is funny.
Good for them.
I actually think by now most people know what a DXP is.
I'm not going to knock them for that. I'm good.
So they're not trying to gain any SEO from that, which is actually kind of funny.
Hey, man, that's a big ocean.
So they start off with a range of features. What do you think? Is that the first? Every time I see like the range of features tends to be the first one. I
thought the same thing. I think I know where you're going here. It's like right away we're going to talk about whether or not it's got features. Get out your checklist. But if you read the description that they've got under here, they talk about the importance of coming into that process with the understanding of what you need and then mapping that against the features that each platform offers. So the heading is there to sort of catch your attention. The substance is accurate. I agree with you. I think it needs to be in a slightly different order. So don't take the order of operations here too literally.
Correct. So again, they're saying the same thing. I think basically every party who's created this article or a white paper on this, look at the range of features.
I mean, that's what our guide is essentially telling you to do too. We go through every collection of features in detail. Yeah.
The DXP guide they have they say 23 different types of features that appear in a core DXP platform. But again, the term DXP means something different for every customer. And that's why I'm like you, get an agency, get a consultant if you're not sure what you're supposed to be looking at for requirements. I think that's
they kind of jump right into assuming that you've gone through that process already and you know what you're looking for. They leave out the part that says make sure you have a well-informed understanding of what it is you need to be looking for before you start evaluating features. So I think there's an assumption in this article that you knew that and you've got that ready and you've already done that. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, for me, just number two is vendor suitability. One area that always bothers me, because this is kind of in the market guide too, is, IT stack to me is almost the most important that never gets talked about. Because in DXP right now, if you're looking at any of the true lists, like Gartner, Forrester, IDC G2, I don't care what it is, they don't list it out that way. So you got Salesforce mixed in with Sitecore, mixed in with Acquia, mixed in with LifeRay, which, these are so different. And you've got Java, you've got
Right. You got a whole
Python, you've got .NET technologies, and your IT team essentially at some level has to be able to support this. And so whenever I see the words vendor suitability, the first criteria I always look at is, okay, what is your back end process built from?
Yeah, like what is your ecosystem already, and how well can you bring in a new technology, whether it's of a similar nature and whatnot. I get it. Like I think,
but I just don't see it in any of these. I feel like that's should be number one.
Again, it's not an invalid point. I wouldn't have started. It wouldn't be number 2 on my list. So everything in here, good direction, not necessarily in priority order.
Yeah, and
because now we're getting into something that's more important.
Well,
and I think is getting to your point, but let you talk.
How well it plays with others, and again, you're starting to hear this all throughout. The consultant and analyst firms are saying that CTOs, CIOs are consolidating their solutions, that quit buying products, try to buy products that play well with others. I actually think this is one area that I look at more today than I ever have, because the fact is where you're going to save your money in IT is how well we can just connect API to API, what connectors are already there.
Well things can talk to each other. Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think this is table stakes now, especially when you get into the cloud. These things have to be able to talk to each other without requiring some sort of modification to your infrastructure or the code base. We keep saying low code a lot. That's a new buzzword. Web services, web hooks. Look for those kinds of things to make sure that you can integrate.
So this one, number 4 here, overall partner ecosystem. This jogged my memory pretty hard.
Oh yeah,
because right at the bottom here they say major DXPs like Sitecore and Optimizely have very mature and large partner ecosystems. One pretty major thought I have is how many times I'll talk to a sales rep, or I'll talk to the customer, but I'll be talking to the vendors themselves. And I'll ask the vendor, did the potential customer ask you for recommendations on, great implementation partners? And the answer is a majority of the time, no. Okay,
right. So they're just selling you the license and they're
jumping off
the next conversation.
But they're going to know who their top partners are. Now, I'm not saying don't do your own due diligence. Absolutely. Don't take all of what they recommend. Go out, do your own due diligence, but you should be going to the vendor first on who they would recommend, because technically they're going to know. And you're starting to see that shift amongst most of the enterprise today. Like if you talk to the partner channels, they're making lists of what we're good at as implementation partners.
Yeah. I mean, yes. So I think this is a very highly valuable point that's being made here. Make sure that, there is an existing strong ecosystem, that there's not just a developer community, but a whole sort of business solutions expertise out there, so that if you need to switch teams or augment, the one that you select, that you have a place to go to for that contribution. And all of the vendors, all the DXP companies should have an idea of the market and their partner group. And I think that's a good reflection of how well established and trusted the platform is, if there's a good, strong partner network who have reflected that and embraced it and decide to build their own business out around it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So number 5 for me. So when I saw this strength and weaknesses, I went right into their market guide. And I have to say, this is really subjective. It really depends on who's doing the review, who's looking at it, what the lens is that you're kind of looking at it from. Because a lot of it's really hard to just be an agnostic, have an agnostic opinion of what those strengths and weaknesses are, because I can find usually some something, a case study where, that is a strength where they put a weakness, or vice versa, where I actually think there are weaknesses for some of these vendors. They're actually listed as strengths. So whenever I see kind of the strengths and weaknesses, I take those with a grain of salt, even for myself.
Well, yeah, because
for whoever
you're going to get, especially at the sort of initial selection process,
Yeah.
you're going to get told what you want to hear.
Yeah.
That, oh yeah, we have that feature. It can do that. How easily can it do it? How, well, I meant it this way, you meant that way, kind of thing. So I think at this point, it's a bit premature to start assigning a strength or weakness value. You've got to kind of do your due diligence, get down to your short list, and then dig deeper.
Yeah. So if you know kind of some really specific requirements that are going to be the heavy lifters,
Sure.
right, for what you're trying to accomplish, if you can go through kind of a sandbox or a light proof of concept with your group,
Right.
it can't be with the solution engineers from these companies are amazing.
Right.
They can do these things in like less than a day.
Yep.
Where you want to understand how well your IT group understands how to integrate, how to use the API, how to carry through the documentation,
Right.
how to do and use the administration. So I think that's the easiest way to kind of look at strengths and weaknesses, as opposed to, hey, this is what I think.
Right. Yep.
And, so now we're kind of moving on to the cost and licensing options. And again, this is a malnomer. This is kind of one of my favorite because these change so rapidly, right? Especially when we're talking about, in the DXP space, I'm seeing a lot of acquisition happening. A lot of these companies get acquired, by bigger VC firms. And so this is constantly shifting in the goalpost. Now, I will say, if you're a small or medium-sized vendor or a company, you looking at like an Adobe, AEM, it's just too pricey. But overall, what you're trying to do is look at the features that you need that come out of the box, the integrations that they already have available. And that's going to help you decide what the cost and license and cloud, SaaS, all that kind of stuff. But to just say, oh, the price of this is much lower than this,
right,
is, I see, and again, I say this as somebody who's been in that room so many times, that they're just saying, well, wait a second, I know this platform is 3 times more expensive. And then you get this is a free platform, open source. It doesn't have any license. And I go, yeah, but that's not what you're worried about.
Yeah, I think, in our own guide, we obviously this is a consideration, right? But everybody knows where, this comes from. It's a total cost of ownership. It's a return on investment. It's an economic decision. So I think you're saying the same thing, like get above the cost and make sure that the economics are appropriate for you and that you're going to get value out of buying, customizing, integrating, and operating whatever platform that might be. And sure, the license price and the ongoing cost is a big part of that, but put it in context.
So the last one's actually other practicalities. I think I love the and
potpourri
more
category, Alex.
I love the and more because, the security standards for me, that's on its own. I literally look at security as that's its own. That shouldn't just be an other.
There's a lot of other practicalities here that are very important that get quickly lumped in here. I think, to nod to, this is an introductory article. This is not a white paper. So could they have taken all this further? They don't need to. You can go get our guide.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of other considerations. Suffice to say.
That's funny. And then this one, again, I'm glad I'm seeing this a lot more. I remember when there were always guides for how to select a CMS or how to select whatever software you input software.
Right.
The product roadmap and trajectory wasn't one that was always listed. And I always thought, okay, but you really want to understand where the focus for the vendor is going. And they're tough to find.
Well, or if it's completely missing.
Oh yeah, well, that's what it's
or
tough to
if
find.
it's open source.
Yes. If you can't find like a roadmap or trajectory, you have no idea whether this is going to be viable for your solution in even 3 years because it changes so quickly. So I love the fact that I'm seeing most of these articles, most of these guides actually have that. And that's, that's kind of
it's a good consideration. Absolutely. And again, it just shows commitment to the market, commitment to the product, commitment to the customers if you're pretty transparent about this. I was actually in a conversation with a client the other day who publishes their own API for integration. And we were debating whether or not you want to be transparent with your roadmap or if that's sort of a closely guarded secret. I can understand both sides of the argument, but I do think a certain amount of transparency is going to benefit your clients.
That's right.
There you go.
So again, you can go to Cylogy here. You can just review their guide. I'm not going to go into the guide because it's I want people to actually download it. I think it's pretty good. There's some things I agree with, some things I don't, but it's really in depth. It gives you good information about all the different vendors that are there. Again, with the strengths and weaknesses, take it as, a very subjective approach because not all of them that I agree with. But yeah, go ahead, download it. And again, if you want to see a different approach, which is ours, you can download ours. We have it right on our on the screen there. It's flyw.co/DXP. And that's it for today.
Thanks, bud. Good one.
Take care.
Ciao.